Good morning.
Good morning. I know. You know what your day is going to start out to be like when the coffee maker is broke.
I know, and you're 50 miles from the nearest store that has coffee makers.
It's a good thing I know how to perk coffee. Oh, wait. Somebody just said, what do you mean perk coffee? Yeah, you percolate your own coffee.
Back in the olden days before
yes.
coffee makers. Good thing you've got your Mountain Man pack basket in the house.
Good thing I know how to perk coffee.
Yes, yes. So what are we going to be covering this morning, Mikey?
I don't know. I'm just here for the laughs, I guess. Because this is so ridiculous.
Yeah. I guess maybe we should start with a scripture.
Oh, well, look at this. The Bible just happens to be open to Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1. Because what this scripture really does, oh, I know, well, it doesn't apply to us anymore. Then neither does the two-witness rule. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses, you can't discard one part of the Mosaic Law, like growing beards and stuff like that, in favor of another part of the Mosaic Law. It's either all or none. That's the way this game is played, Jehovah's Witnesses. So if you're the rank and file, pay particular attention to this scripture because it applies to you. Now, in case a soul sins and that he has heard public cursing, now it's not curse words like GD, F this, freaking, whatever. It's about breaking an oath. It's about breaking oaths. You don't believe me? Go and look at Genesis 24:41 in the footnote. It's about breaking an oath. And you made an oath to uphold the clean state of Jehovah's organization. See, we're a clean organization. The responsibility rests on you just as much as it does your nut job elders and your idiotic governing body. Heard public cursing, and he is a witness. Okay, witness, we get that, you've seen it with your own eye. You're a witness, you've seen it. Okay? Or has come to know of it. In other words, coming to know of it is not qualified in the same sentence structure as a witness. Coming to know of it now involves hearsay. Right? Somebody told somebody who told somebody that little Johnny was abused by, Let. You came to know of it. Listen what the scripture says further. If he does not report it, then he must answer for his error. So even if you have hearsay, you need to report it. Now the problem with this ecclesiastical nonsense is that these Jehovah's Witnesses report it to the elders, and then the elders do nothing with it. You have a legal obligation to report even hearsay to the proper authorities, like the police department, maybe even to the FBI. If you hear it and you do not report it to the proper authorities, which is not your elder body, then you are just as guilty as the one that commits the sin.
See, and that's the point we were making earlier about the two-witness rule. This scripture goes against it.
That's right.
If you follow the superior authorities' law on wearing a mask and social distancing, and they've been stressing that, we follow the superior authorities' suggestions, then how come they won't follow the superior authorities' law and report every allegation of child abuse?
It's because the Levitical law doesn't apply anymore.
Yeah.
You see how they circumvent all of this, people? They claim they're Christians. We are Jehovah's chosen people. Yeah, you're chosen, all right. You're chosen to perpetrate evil in this world.
But XJW Smurf Girl, she put up a video about Jehovah's Witnesses and being martyrs. Go listen to that, because she's actually going into the research of what the word Jehovah's Witnesses means.
Exactly.
So check it out.
I tell you, there are so many excellent YouTubers in this community that really spend the time doing the research and figuring all of this out. XJW Elder's wife, Jane Doe, is one of them. I mean, Ugly Watchtower. My goodness, you women just keep it coming. Keep hammering this.
Well, there's also a lot of posts going around. Now, I'm going to put the link down below to our old video from our first channel, but it was about the golden age where women were going to turn into men in paradise. So it's an oldie but a goodie, and you can get our thoughts on that. But what we're going to focus on now is a clip from the UK Commission. Now, this is the commissioner asking our buddy Paul Gillies a question, and their reporting of wrongdoing and, establishing wrongdoing. So listen to this question.
Yes.
Which says that a judicial committee would not be formed unless the wrongdoing has been established by sufficient evidence. Please note the following. There either has to be admission or wrongdoing. So if there's admission, there doesn't have to be corroborating evidence, but there must be 2 witnesses to a confession. So what does that mean? Does that mean that if somebody told me, that wouldn't be in confession unless, say, Professor J was also in the room with me?
Okay, so she's asking the question about, in their elder's manual, do there need to be 2 witnesses to a confession? Not an accusation, a confession.
See, and that was something that Kim and I caught when we first started watching all of this. It's like, wait a minute, why do you need 2 witnesses to a confession? I mean, after all, a confession is a self-acknowledgement to the sin. Why would you really need 2 witnesses to establish a fact? The confessor himself establishes it. But when it comes to an accusation, there should be 2 witnesses. But yet when you read the Levitical law, you only need to hear of it. And you become guilty if you don't report it.
Well, look at in the court of law now, Jehovah's Witnesses are trying to use the clergy penitent privilege.
Right.
Now, we know the Catholic Church, it's one-on-one.
Exactly.
So if they're claiming the clergy penitent privilege and confidentiality, that would be a one-on-one. Because the minute you go and have more than one person hearing this, then it's not confidential, is it?
Exactly. And we've showed the leaked videos about Robbie confessing to an elder, and then
one elder.
And then, in turn it's told to the rest of the elders, and then a judicial hearing is formed to establish the facts. But the confessor already established the facts. He's already established it. Basically, they're calling Robbie and anybody who confesses to one elder a liar.
So would you like to hear Paul Gillies' reply?
Oh, I can only imagine what's coming.
No, it does not mean that at all. Of course, the scenario you present, it would be ridiculous to imagine that there was ever a setting where an abuser was abusing a child with somebody present there. They just don't do that, do they? So,
no, but it says there must be 2 witnesses to a confession. I'm not asking, I mean, I think you and I both agree the likelihood, well, there might be in terms of, absolutely gross cases of paedophiles passing people around, but in the vast majority of cases, that isn't what happens. There must be 2 witnesses to a confession.
So the testimony of 2 witnesses is at least 2 people. If it's denied, of course, we're talking about that scenario. The one who makes the accusation.
No, but this is about confession. Admission of wrongdoing, either written or oral, may be accepted as conclusive proof, but there must be 2 witnesses to a confession. I understand entirely if the activity is denied, you say that there must be 2 or 3 eyewitnesses. That's further down the page. But why does there need to be 2 witnesses to a confession? And there isn't a scriptural basis for that. I was just wondering, is that an error, maybe?
Well, the first sentence there says admission of wrongdoing, either written or oral, may be accepted as conclusive proof without corroborating evidence. So where someone admits it, but sometimes when they might be dealing with an individual, they might receive a confession, but why is that person confessed? What are they confessing to? Is there something more serious that they might have done which they're not confessing to in the hope that they can get off lightly? So there might be other matters that's presented out of the mouth of two witnesses to verify that, or to make it, as it says, clear and unambiguous. It is not actually talking here about child abuse when it says this. It's talking about the scriptural basis for divorce in the congregation, when there is a confession of adultery, or somebody is accusing their marriage partner of adultery. That's the context of that particular discussion there. But as far as
I know you say that that's the context of that particular discussion, but the particular chapter is headed determining whether a judicial committee should be formed. So I'm assuming that it's used generally for all activities, although obviously, as you've identified, you would, for example, say in the cases of adultery, for example, that somebody saying that their partner had behaved in an adulterous manner wouldn't be sufficient. You would also need, I'm assuming, possibly the person with whom the adultery took place to say so for the two witnesses rule to be met. Would that be correct?
Well, yes, there would have to be some other kind of evidence, again, if it was one person's word against another, to establish that.
Do you get the impression he never answered the question?
Well, of course, he's deflecting, because that's what Jehovah's Witnesses, the upper echelon, does. They deflect because they know damn well if they give a direct answer, they're done, they're over with, they lose control.
Either that, or he didn't know that this was in the Elder's Manual. Now, they have the 2015 edition at this UK Commission. We happen to have the new one from April of 2020. And as you can see, it says the same thing. And she's absolutely right, trying to get him to answer this, because it's evidence of establishing wrongdoing. And this whole chapter is whether, a judicial committee is to be formed. It does not specify that this is for adultery or, immorality. I'm just going to read what it says. Even though a Christian has been accused of wrongdoing serious enough to require judicial action, a judicial committee should not be formed unless the wrongdoing has been established by sufficient evidence. Please note the following regarding evidence. See, nowhere in there does it state what this is specifically talking about. This is about any wrongdoing, serious wrongdoing. Okay, let's go on to number 1. And this is the point she was trying to get him to answer. Confession, admission of wrongdoing, either written or oral, may be accepted as conclusive proof without other corroborating evidence. There must be 2 witnesses to a confession, and the confession must be clear and unambiguous. For example, they're using an example as a statement from a married Christian that his mate is scripturally free. See, that was only an example. That was not the context of this. There must be 2 witnesses to a confession. So we're going to talk about this 2 witnesses to a confession. This isn't 2 witnesses to an accusation. This is 2 witnesses to a confession. So if a perpetrator comes and confesses to an elder,
one elder,
why? And we think we have some good examples.
My dad was an elder, not for very long before he passed away from lung cancer. And I'm not going to give names. I'm just going to relate what happened, because I know from firsthand talk.
Hearsay.
Hearsay. That's
You
right.
heard of it.
Hearsay. I came to hear of it, that there was a prominent presiding overseer. I know, it's now a Kobe, but back in those days, it was the presiding overseer. Now, this presiding overseer was well loved.
Well, a lot of us called him the high priest.
Yeah, and I really don't know how many heads he had stuck up his ass, but everybody seemed to love having their heads up his ass. I was not one of them, and neither was my dad. So anyhow, with that being said, it became my knowledge that a ministerial servant committed adultery. And this ministerial servant went and told the said high priest, because he had his head up the high priest's ass.
He confessed.
He confessed.
One-on-one to the presiding overseer.
So the presiding overseer says, okay, I'll handle it. Some time elapsed, and my dad was involved with a separate matter. And it was confessed to my dad at that time that this adultery had taken place. And my dad goes, wait, what? What do you mean? Didn't the high priest tell the rest of the body? No, he didn't. You know why? Because the ministerial servant confessed to the high priest, and the high priest did nothing with it. Why? Oh, he's so loved. This high priest is the best the congregation's ever had. Yeah, so my dad obviously made an issue out of it. So that's why when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses, there has to be a confession, because what this scripture is pointing out that many of us miss is that even within the elder body, there is a gross lack of honesty. A gross lack of upholding Jehovah's holy and precious name. There's a gross lack of the high priest, making sure Jehovah's congregation is kept clean. But see, a lot of these guys don't do that because they have so many heads stuck up their asses they actually waddle when they walk.
Well, doesn't it go along, too, with the high priest, what was it, Eli, that knew about his two sons committing sins that were in the temple service?
So there's a very good reason why Jehovah's Witnesses have to have a witness to a confession. That's why they have to have another elder there, because you might have a high priest type elder that ain't going to do anything with it because he loves, having that head stuck up his ass.
But see, Paul Gillies, if he knew this was in the elder's book, he could not come out and admit,
right,
well, there's been cases in the past where a confession has been told to one elder and they did nothing. See, he can't admit that.
He can't admit that because that would be the end of the elder body.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now it becomes a matter of, well, what do you mean the high priest isn't doing his job to keep Jehovah's congregation clean? See, there's a gross lack of trust even among the elder body. And we witnessed the same thing up in Wisconsin with Brother Viagra tie. This is a common practice among the high priests in these congregations.
Yeah.
It's a common practice.
So we can understand, being ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, why they would need, more than one witness to a confession. Because, if a perpetrator, an abuser, child abuser, comes and confesses to an elder, if he's buddies with the perpetrator, well, then he could just sweep it under the carpet and say, okay, let's just keep this quiet. So, but Paul Gillies cannot admit that to the commission.
See, and that's why they say admission of wrongdoing, either written or oral. Even if you write out your confession, it needs to be read to the body. And that's what was so important about the leaked Robbie video. He told one elder, and then that one elder reported it to the body. And that's how it's supposed to work. But when it comes to some of these high priest elders, don't always work that way.
Well, not only that, But, okay, Robbie goes and he confesses to that one elder. Well, you can see what could happen, because that one elder that goes and tells the body what happened then could have tweaked the confession. You know, he may have left out some things.
Or he may have added some things.
Yeah.
You know, we faced the same thing. We had a, charismatic circuit overseer. Cottonwood was his first assignment ever, and we're all like, oh, Gene Fields, you're just the best. You're just the best. Yada, yada, yada. It became hero worship. The thing is by the time that circuit overseer was at the end of his tour of duty, many of us were writing letters to the society complaining about what he was doing. I wrote a letter. Never mailed it off. Somebody, regarding this hearsay, reported it to the elders. So I had to sit in and go to the elders and, try to make a confession. And I said, yeah, I wrote a letter, but I didn't mail it off. But you can damn well bet tomorrow morning that letter is going in the mail. See, they tried to get me on hearsay and collusion. You should have seen those elders' mouths dropped when I told them, no, I haven't mailed it, but I'm going to now, and I'm going to include a few things like what you guys are doing right here, this kangaroo court.
Well, then you can see what happened. It was a very difficult time for many of us, because many of us were writing letters complaining about what was going on, and many of us called it the boys club.
The boys club, exactly.
Because they all protect one another, and only certain few are in this boys club. I see it in the XJW community also.
Exactly. It's a subculture.
Yeah. But what happened is then the elders accused everyone who was a whistleblower speaking out. Then all of us were collaborating together.
We're all collaborating to bring down a circuit overseer when these guys refused to look at this situation for what it actually was.
Yeah.
It was a power trip by this particular circuit overseer.
Yeah, exactly. And then we heard that he went to another circuit, and I think by that time he was a district overseer, back when they had district overseers. And guess what? He was doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing. No one ever learns, because this organization will not listen to the rank and file.
And he did such a good job of being a company man in the boys club that they made him the teacher of the Kingdom Evangelizer in Florida.
Yeah. So you know what? When it comes to climbing the rung, this guy obviously has climbed the rung on the ladder. But it's not because he has biblical or scriptural knowledge. It's because he's got his head inserted up someone's ass, because it's obvious he can't even answer the question that he's being asked of this woman. He can't even, he's got to deflect and, use the example they've got right here. Well, I have even a better example, and we just already gave it.
Yeah, and how it must have chapped his hide to have to answer to a female commissioner and answer all these questions. And most of the commissioners on this panel, I only seen one or two men, if I remember correctly. All the rest were women. So how it must have chapped his hide to have to answer to a woman, because we know how this hierarchy is, in Watchtower. They don't want a woman to have any kind of say-so or power or anything.
Well, especially over, the elected ones.
Yeah. And when you listen to all of these hearings, and they are available, the IICSA has their own YouTube channel. I'm going to put the link down below to that, because these hearings are online now, so you can grab and listen to all of these hearings now. And, I mean, it's just upsetting, some of the things that he was asked and then, won't answer. And we hope to do some videos on some more things, because she also asked him specifically about a redress scheme, and she knows about what's going on in Australia with that redress scheme.
You see, Watchtower, the grave you have dug is your own. Because we live in a modern day world right now. You can't do anything without somebody finding it somewhere on the internet. Because all records are being put up on the internet. That's why you're telling your elders to destroy all these records, destroy the evidence, because with the evidence, we're going to show beyond any shadow of a doubt that Jehovah is not directing this organization, or excuse me, Jehovah has never directed this organization, because it's a man-made Christian-based religion like all of them are.
And before we sign off, I want to thank Christoph for sending me the information on the pole and Kingdom Halls that have gone up for sale. I think they're having a fire sale.
Yeah. Well, there again, it's just evidence of what's happening to Watchtower. The witnesses are waking up. They are leaving. Your Kingdom Halls are being abandoned to you. Oh, but you love that, don't you, Watchtower? Because now you can sell these abandoned Kingdom Halls and make, billions and more dollars because you didn't invest one single penny. The rank and file did.
Yeah, exactly.
And what also did we hear? In France?
Oh, I mean, dozens and dozens and dozens of congregations in France are being dissolved, and we're being sent the names of those. So if anybody hears of any Kingdom Halls going up for sale in France, please let us know. KimmyAnnBrooks@gmail.com. And, I've got some ladies helping me now. We've got this states list of all the addresses of Kingdom Halls in the United States, and they're helping me. So thank you so much. So I want to thank Tara for sending me Ohio, and I've got, several others who are helping me in the list to do. I haven't done them yet because I've got 6 pages from Ohio. I think Ohio had a fire sale a couple of years ago because they sold so many Kingdom Halls. So anyway, the kids are coming out tomorrow to celebrate early Mikey's birthday.
Yeah.
I know his birthday isn't till next week, but the kids are coming out tomorrow. So this video may be it for a day or so, and I've got more videos to edit. I just haven't had time.
Yeah, I know. I did one last week and it hasn't been edited yet.
Get in line.
Yeah, exactly.
Get in line.
Well, we still haven't done the one on 666 yet. I mean, I'm just chomping at the bit to do that one.
Yeah. And our friend Atlantis, he actually did the research for us for the 1914, about that article Aunt Mo had.
Yeah.
How the Bible students back then, they thought 1914 was the end, not the beginning of Christ's presence. They didn't even have a clue about that. So, he's kind enough to do that research for us. And
the internet, you just gotta love it.
I know, just too many videos to do. And there's some more on this UK commission that we wanted to cover too.
There's really a lot going on, friends, and we just well, what is it? John Lennon said, "Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans." God rest his soul.
Life is what happens to you when you're busy making videos. So.
Yeah, that too.
Yes. So you all have a wonderful weekend. And be safe and take care, and we love you, and thank you for subscribing, and thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.